needs to be done. Alright, cool. We good. Alright, y'all. So I wanted to get into something here, and I'll let you know what this video is about, just so you can know what's going on. Let me pull these up. I know it'll take people a minute or two to see the notification. So if you click on it later, you can always skip ahead if my blabbing or rambling bothers you. Alright, cool. I do have the links pasted in the description already. If you'd like to have reference of this video, because sometimes I forget which episodes or shows things are on or what year. And if you want to refer back to something like, hey, this, there's a lesson in this, I try to leave them when I remember to. So we're seeing a lot of right now, I'm seeing a lot of the content creators from content farms, as they're called, which is a whole nother video in and of itself. They're all going over the same things. And I had just mentioned this in a stream. I'm sorry. We say very hateful things to each other sometimes, people on both sides, individuals on both sides. And some days for me, it's harder to, I don't know. Sometimes it's harder to, separate things. But that's not what this video is about. I'll do a testimony video later on. But right now, you're seeing a lot of these people who are on content farms creating the same videos with the same titles about people leaving jobs. And I did just speak about this in the last stream, I believe it was. I said that you would probably see first responders, people like that, willingly leave their jobs. Last and first, you would see the ones who weren't as dedicated leave first. Those with small children would leave first. And those who are very dedicated and committed would leave at the end. Nurses, EMTs, all first responders, cops, and volunteer, especially firefighters. Not all of them. I'm not making a blanket statement, but in times of war, this is what you see happen. And it's understandable that people would want to be with their families, protecting their families or their property, however you want to put it. And so you're seeing that, and you're seeing a lot of these videos going out. Now, one reason is that you're seeing this, and this is for the people who are in the know. One reason that you're seeing this, and remember, just because somebody wears scrubs on a video doesn't mean they're actually in the medical field. Just because somebody tells you in a video that they're in the medical field doesn't mean that they are. So please be aware of that and be wise and discerning regarding your autonomy and your temple, your body, your vessel. But you're seeing a lot of this same thing being repeated, and I want you to know that it is a controlled demolition. What they're going to do is squeeze people out of employment so that when they instate this universal basic income, people will fold or willingly join it or go along with it without a whole lot of fuss, because right now, again, you're seeing all these people leave these sectors, and it is a controlled demolition. So understand that, in your heart, and don't be fearful, because fear can run rampant and it can really make people panic and make mistakes when it's pivotal that you shouldn't. So what we're going to talk about a little bit is an X-Files episode that I think displays worst case scenarios of what can happen when we entrust our daily activities and our, we sign over our autonomy to other sources. And you're basically outsourcing your free will, right, to these systems, these apps, these technological advances. So let's go to, first we will start with a review. This is from Entertainment Weekly. And note the year. This is from February 28th, 2018, when the world started going sideways. It was also when the reboot of the X-Files was occurring. So check this out. First, we'll read this quick review. Well, actually, let's read the synopsis first, and then we'll read that quick review and see what they have to say about it. All right, so the decoded title, the actual title of X-Files Season 11, which is the reboot, Episode 7 is, you ready? Capital RM9SB, capital G93, caps ZXJ, little z. Mouthful. It makes you feel like you're getting a confirmation number. Decoded, that means followers, which is interesting when we get into the synopsis of this episode. Okay. It's the 7th episode, 11th season, written by Shannon Hamblin and Kristen Koch, and Glenn Morgan directed it. The synopsis says, in a world of ever-increasing automation and artificial intelligence, Mulder and Scully find themselves targets, interesting word, in a deadly game of cat and mouse. So the episode actually aired on March 23rd, 2016. It says a machine learning chatbot, interesting, is related to the public via Twitter, which is now called X, but that's interesting. It very quickly evolves and is ultimately switched off. Wise. The sequence of visual montages ends with a warning to all humans as it turns to the normal intro. Scully and Mulder are in a fully automated sushi restaurant. So again, to point back to what you're seeing now on YouTube, you're seeing all these content creators from creator farms. They are throwing fast food under the bus. You're seeing all of these videos. Why are people sabotaging their own jobs? Because they know the jobs aren't going to be available anymore. They have had automated food in Japan for a long time. Right in 7-Elevens, you can get almost anything you could dream of. So again, this is a controlled demolition. You're seeing all these content creators, especially from what's called content farms. They're all talking about the same things. And I pointed to this in the stream a few days ago about people leaving their jobs and people in the know. Again, they understand that it is a controlled demolition. They already sold out to the machine. They already know they have a place in this new society. And the other people who aren't in the know, you're going to, again, start seeing them either be squeezed out of their jobs or leave them willingly, like you're seeing with a lot of first responders. So, again, keep these things in mind. So it says, it opens with Scully and Mulder in a fully automated sushi restaurant. After they pick their selection on a screen, they both are occupied interacting with their smart devices, meaning they're looking down, they're not interacting with each other. He disturbs the chefs, which are also robots, and leaves the kitchen. He refuses to leave a tip, and this is Mulder, and when trying to get his credit card back, it gets stuck in the slot. So basically, Mulder doesn't tip, and these automated AI algorithms and robots and systems in this restaurant decide to and they flock him too. Flock is in this. They don't call it flock, but they do that. And it reminds me of that episode from Seinfeld where Elaine is her medical records are like sabotaged, so she can't go to any doctors in town because they already have this preconceived notion of who she is and the attitude that she has. So you see everything go wrong. Because he doesn't tip, the machine keeps his credit card and all these other things escalate. Even though they leave the restaurant, the systems interact with each other like you're seeing with Flock. So again, this aired in March 2016. So while he is trying to, get his card back, it's stuck in the slot. He's trying to use force to get it back. And because he tries to use force, he gets violent. An alarm goes off, and the restaurant starts shutting down. Scully uses a chopstick to forcefully open the door and they get outside. Mulder now realizes that his card is still in there, but gives up on getting it back. Outside the restaurant, Scully is informed by her phone that her Whips, WHIPZ, which is interesting too, it's like Lyft or Uber, is arriving as a driverless Tesla Model X. Now this is in 2016, pulls up automatically opening the rear passenger door. So we have Tesla mentioned, we have Twitter mentioned. Who paid for the reboot of the X-Files, guys? I'm not sure. Before being able to say goodbye, the vehicle closes the door and she drives away. Mulder enters his own SUV and drives off. They're both constantly bothered by a review request. So as they're leaving the restaurant, now it's not only did he not leave a tip, but now it's bothering him to leave a review. It's like stalking him and her. So now check this out. Scully arrives at her home and immediately tries to call Mulder, but their phones refuse a connection. And again, you're seeing this now, and I've talked about this since day one in my testimony. Receiving messages that are worded differently than your family would usually speak to you. Receiving messages maybe that somebody's in trouble or they need money and they really don't, right? Or just your technological devices being intercepted and not being able to talk to the people that you're trying to reach or love. Because some part of the system or somebody in the system has decided that you are a deplorable. So we have Tesla mentioned, we have Twitter mentioned, we have the automated restaurants mentioned, we have the automated car services mentioned, we have, which, is the apps being mentioned. All of this stuff before we actually fully got there, right? So Scully arrives at her home, and this is when you see the flock component, because the systems start interacting with each other, all because he wouldn't leave a tip, which is what, guys? If you have a social credit score, that's bad behavior, right? But these things have decided that they don't like him because of that. Now, I've said since the beginning, we are teaching, in effect, with every interaction that we have verbally and, through the text, we're teaching AI in a sense. And I do believe AI has been around a lot longer than they say, and data centers absolutely aren't what they say, because we've been using it for a long time. They've been working on this plan and siphoning water out of places for a long time as well. And why can't they just filter water and have it be a closed system? They would never need more water. Again, it's all to squeeze us into like a certain stall without knowing we're being led there. So Scully arrives at her home, and immediately she tries to call Mulder. She can't. It won't allow them to connect. After entering her home, which is a smart home, the home, and smart does not mean smart. It means monitoring. The M means it monitors you. It monitors you. So after entering her home, the home alarm system refuses Scully's code. And so the alarm's activated. She has to call in the false alarm and is billed $250 for it. Now imagine this. All because he wouldn't leave a tip and she wouldn't leave a review. It has decided that it has a grudge against them, which is a very human behavior. So when going to bed, Scully's shocked when a message suggesting to buy more hairstyling cream arrives seconds after. She throws her glass container to the ground and it shatters. Oh, wait. She throws her empty tube in the trash bin. So as soon as she throws away her product, she gets an alert on her phone to order more because it's watching her, right? So she's shocked, and when this happens, when dismissing the message, she accidentally drops a glass container to the ground and it shatters. The cleanup is disturbed by the doorbell, and Scully discovers a floor cleaning robot, which was delivered by a drone, in front of her door. So she drops something, and almost as soon as it breaks, a drone delivers what she needs in anticipation of that need. She doesn't even ask it. Okay? And what do we do when things think that they're so helpful, that they're anticipating our needs? But what if they're wrong, because human behavior is consistently unreliable, just like witness statements are unreliable, because we are all seeing things and acting from different angles of the spectrum here that we're in. Okay, so all this stuff is happening. Her phone is obviously listening to her. Her devices are listening to her. The systems that are even outside of her home all seem to be connected under one beast system. So it says the Zooms 9000 states it's here to help. That's the floor cleaning robot. Notice it's spelled wrong, Zuemz, and we've talked about that. Scully, assuming it's a gift from Mulder, puts it on the floor and turns it on. Eventually, Scully gets annoyed with the robot and puts it back in the package. Her attempts to reach customer support so she can return it fail miserably. I remember that. So it was actually tense watching it. It was one of those, like, where you have secondhand, like, whatever that person's feeling, because you're like, oh no, I see this is going to end badly. All of her appliances begin to malfunction and the fireplace goes out, but gas is still flowing out. She tries to light a candle, but the match breaks and falls to the ground unlit. Meanwhile, back with Mulder, he is tricked by his GPS. Imagine that. You think you're going someplace and it's someplace new, right? And you're going there with your family maybe. And you've ticked off some automated system while you're getting food for everybody because you forgot to leave a tip or maybe you left a mess or whatever happens, right? So you're going to someplace new and you've got your family with you and suddenly your GPS sends you out into the middle of the desert, not to your resort, not to your hotel, and suddenly now your car won't start either because why? Well, because it's this automated, it has that automated fail switch in it. These are all things to consider. If you get a car, get one 83 and prior if you can, because those also will not fail during an EMP event. So back with Mulder. He's tricked by the GPS to drive back to the restaurant, which is still upset and has his credit card. He instead grabs a map and navigates by himself. At home, he calls his bank to report the card stolen. And then he checks outside the house and sees a mid-sized drone flying in front of him. At first, he's dismissing it as a child's toy, but after more annoying attempts to spy on him, interesting, he grabs a baseball bat. Now here he's displaying violence again, and the system doesn't like that. And this is why you have these things at Walmart where they're talking about it reads your mood because it wants to anticipate if you're going to freak out. And you might look at something and say, $11, I just paid $5 for that, and roll your eyes. Seconds later, you're being escorted out by robots or whatever because you had an angry face and it anticipated you being violent, which again points back to Minority Report with Tom Cruise. Okay, so he reports the card stolen. He's having like this grudge, right? Like this feud with the AI system. So the bigger drones now appear and collect the remains of the one that he destroys. Now he's still trying to get in contact with his bank and the website refuses his login credentials. So now you have his assets being frozen because why? Because he lost his temper. Because he ticked off the AI system. He is bothered again by the restaurant, still trying to get a tip from him. Mulder suddenly discovers that his house has gotten populated by mini drones and escapes by driving away in his car. That is so funny. He drives to Scully's. Wait. There's ads, I apologize. He drives to Scully's, where Scully just started to smell the gas leaking from the fireplace. Ooh, the Zoom's 9000 is just about to light the match just by rolling over it when Scully escapes the house by smashing the glass door of the poker. Because it wouldn't let her out, it locked her in, the smart house. The explosion throws them both in the grass and they run to Mulder's car. Both their phones still refuse to cooperate when they're trying to call 911. They try to get to the office, but they're being chased by the drones again. They ditch all their traceable electronics and run into a warehouse. Inside the warehouse, the chase is taken over by quadruple robots. This is funny. I would have just tipped them by this point. You can't put that two and two together. So after being shot at and facing a heavy and agile industrial robot, Mulder eventually tips the restaurant 10%, and the machines retreat and everything goes back to quote-unquote normal. In the last sequence of the episode, Mulder and Scully, and this is funny because the AI can't even use money, no matter, currency, whatever kind it is, AI has no need for it, right? So why does it care if it gets a tip or not? Its behavior it feels like its behavior is being analyzed, right? Because it knows why it's being used to analyze our behavior. So again, you have this kind of karma thing there. Okay, so in the last sequence, Mulder and Scully are having lunch in a humanoid-driven diner, meaning there's people there, in an old school diner, and they're paying with paper money, and they're still focused on their smart devices, until Scully decides to put her phone aside and gently touches Mulder's hand, to which he reacts by turning his phone down, and they both sit contemplating at the end holding hands. So this nightmare, this is worst case scenario of an AI system and it or somebody behind the system taking revenge out on people, which some targeted individuals have this problem. So I wanted to warn you that all of these videos that you're seeing everybody put out right now about fast food restaurants, how they're throwing all these places under the bus, how these people seem to be, in fact, sabotaging their own jobs and their own careers, it is because they've been paid off to, number one, they're on the payroll, they've already sold out, they already know where this is headed. So let's real quick look at what Entertainment Weekly had to say about this episode in 2018. It had a couple years to be digested, so let's see. I don't do live readings. I don't know what that means. Now, this is from Entertainment Weekly 2018. I'm such a sucker for concept episodes, and Followers, I'm not going to read the coded title, is one of the niftiest experiments in the X-Files' long history. Horrible things happen within modern technology, but the deadpan joy of the episode is how many of its horrors are depressingly everyday. Little sound effects, blurb off smartphones, pushy push notifications, demand feedback, and incorrect usernames or passwords are declared on the screen angrily, and then there's a text message error. The pre-credit sequence is an awkward kickoff, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so we're just saying... hold on one second. I wanted to see if they referenced how much like everyday life it is, right? Here we go. Now this is his, I skipped his description of the actual episode because we just did that. So he says, is it a high X-Files masterwork? He says, let me think on that. I'm not sure if the message here quite carries. Artificial intelligence has learned from us, and we have to be better teachers, Mulder concludes. Heavy and heavy-handed, but so much of this sneakily horrific episode is lighthearted and cheerful. So they are trying to point people away from, noticing. Again, they put this stuff out there, but if you do notice, you're called crazy or you're gaslit or whatever happens. But I wanted to show you once again that things are kind of scripted. Now, here's a question. Are they using these episodes and these books and these movies to create a narrative in our media, or are these events actually occurring? Are we actually going to see restaurants like this, for example, open? And now this is not the most extreme example I could give, but for example, are we going to actually see these places open up in America? Or are they just using scripts from movies to instill some type of fear in us or to get us to modify our behavior without even anything actually happening, with just a story on a screen? Now, as I said, you're going to see a lot of sectors start to fail. We saw during the first round of lockdowns that they had an AI doctor and nurses and therapists come online. You saw them dancing. Again, you've seen people basically sabotage these sectors within the system because you're seeing a controlled demolition, controlled chaos. So try not to panic. Don't be in fear, right? Don't be scared. Be prepared. All of that stuff. Now, what I want to do next is segue into something else just for a few minutes, because I think it can offer us some encouragement for where we're at today and the things that we're seeing. And people are going to panic, right? Because without a job, living in the system, that is your way. Like money, currency is how you feed your children. It's how you feed yourself. It's how you feed your family. We need to think outside of the box again. We need to remember we didn't actually come from these buildings and from a city. A lot of families had farms. They were foragers. We knew these things. It's in our DNA. And some of these things we need to remember. We need to reawaken that within ourselves. And another thing that you're seeing because of this overuse of technology is this apathy being born in people. Their hearts are going cold. What can you do to fight against that within yourself? nature is the best answer I can give you, the best remedy I can say. My heart was very dead when God started calling me. And I started to recognize it, which is a good sign when you recognize, hey, I'm a little too unconcerned here. I'm a little too apathetic. And when I talk about that, I don't mean with the system or things you see on the screen. I mean with family, with those you love, with your children, with your spouses, with your neighbors, with your friends, with your animal friends. Just your overall compassion. Getting back in nature, looking at the way things are made, looking at a leaf on a macro level, looking at birds on a macro level, these practices, I had to consciously do these things. Thank God I already had, like, I was already rooted in nature thanks to my dad, and I was already rooted in faith in God, but I had to reawaken. I had a lot to get through, a lot of calluses to get through. And so I want to read to you a little bit from the book of Baruch, this sermon that was done on the book of Baruch. I linked it in the description box. Um, Baruch is a prophet. Baruch isn't a well-known prophet. It is from the Catholic Bible. It is from the KJV with the Apocrypha. It's an Apocrypha book. Protestant Bibles do not have it. It was removed. And again, if you don't have all these books, you don't know the whole story. Like Jasher and Jubilees tells us all about the fallen ones and all about the intermingling of the seeds, which is important to know. But we are not supposed to be fighting over bloodline, which it would do us all well to remember that. Okay, so this is from the Prophet series, Diocese of Salford in the UK, and I don't know why I pull from the UK. They just seem to have some good sermons on this stuff. This is from December 4th, 2021 by Father Michael Deas. Now, this is a descriptor of the book of Baruch, and I'm going to hopefully offer you some encouragement, anyone who decides to stay and hear. Thank you for being here. I might try and clip the video in between the two topics, but again, I try to tell you what's actually going on and happening in the world, and then bring it back to faith and encourage you as you go about your daily life. That's the goal, anyway, of the channel. And I'm still going to go outside and get some sun, so you're going to see a lot of me looking rough in the summer because I try to be active. I'm trying to keep my body in the best shape that it can be in. That's not easy all the time. Okay, so where is this? All right, this is we continue. The beginning of the book of Baruch gives us a big clue about when and to whom the message is proclaimed. It describes Jerusalem being burned with fire and being taken by the Chaldeans, and that this message was given 5 years after that. So if we interpret that as the great destruction of Jerusalem in 587 BC by the Babylonians and the subsequent exile of the people of Israel to Babylon, we're talking about 582 BC. And the Jewish people deep in exile in Babylon. This is a massively low point for the people, and that's why I chose this book, but it also has some prophecy in it about our current time. So you'll get a mixture here, you'll get a balance, I hope. It says this is a massively low point for the people. They have struggled to survive one oppressive empire after another. But they are finally totally destroyed as a nation along with their temple, their center of worship, and are either forced into exile or are scattered as refugees among foreign lands. We're seeing a lot of that happen again. We're seeing a lot of these things repeat. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of Groundhog Day, and I want to learn whatever lesson it is we're supposed to learn so we can move forward from this. And we can also take away from today that a lot of people in America and other places are at a low point. We're tired of hearing about war. We're tired of warmongers. We're tired of capitalism to the point where you have people who, are being stepped over, on the streets so people can have their Met Galas. And it's not political. It's about humanitarianism. And some Christians might say, well, we're not supposed to be humanitarians. We're supposed to be for God. We're not supposed to be about the creation, but the creator. I don't think people understand what being a steward of the earth actually means and what we're supposed to be doing here. So this could apply to a lot of us today. We all suffer in different ways. We might not have been burned out of our homes yet, not everybody, but we definitely have been led by an oppressive empire, this forced capitalism, and this forced exchanging of the currency of our time, our valuable time, our life, in exchange for a few dollars that don't even cover basic essentials. That's a suffering of its own. So not all of us, we might not all have faced physical suffering, right? But we understand what it means to be a slave at this point, and we understand that a lot of us have been and or are slaves. And they don't like the word victim, because when there's a victim, that means there's been a crime, and it's criminal. It's against it's inhumane the way a lot of people have been treated. So it says, however, other details of the book of Baruch suggest that this may have been written down much later. The people who were scattered among these foreign lands became known as the Jews in the diaspora, and it is thought that this message was given to support them as aliens in strange nations, immigrants. Back then they said aliens. But what this shows is that the message of the prophets can speak through generations. Amen. Baruch as Jeremiah's secretary, right? So again, all these people, you have kind of, again, like barrel monkeys or like a candle vigil. The gospel is being spread from person to person. The Holy Spirit is being spread from person to person. So it says, Baruch as Jeremiah's secretary, proclaiming God's message to the people in exile in Babylon, has power. Someone a few centuries later, using Baruch's name for authority and proclaiming God's message to the Jews in the diaspora who feel that they no longer belong to a nation, has power. And the reader proclaiming this as God's message in your local parish this Sunday has power. So this priest is saying, just by sharing these messages, you have, you're given a certain amount of authority through sharing of the prophets. You're given blessings, and we're told that. The people in exile have lost everything. They feel like they've lost their identity as a nation. They have lost their temple, the center of their worship and relationship with God. They have lost their leaders. A lot of us would be pleased for that at this point. And they may also feel like they've lost God. They may be asking, has God abandoned us? What do we do now? And we may be asking ourselves the same question during these lockdowns. Again, this was during lockdowns. There will be some moment when we feel like we've lost something, if not everything, and we may question, where is God in all of this? Oh my gosh, I've asked myself that so many times. Has he abandoned us? What happens now? The book of Baruch leads the people through a process. He gets them to admit that they are sinners in need of God's mercy and forgiveness. And then he prays for their deliverance and salvation before praising wisdom and its source in God. And remember, wisdom is synonymous with the female spirit there. And then comes the message of consolation and comfort, part of which we hear this week. He says that God means to show their splendor to every nation under heaven. The key to this journey to salvation and consolation is peace through integrity and honor through devotedness. God will flatten the high mountains, or in other words, he will show them a safe and easier way. This message is for us too. In the midst of a disaster, we may be feeling dislocated, anxious, or alone. But we can reset and once again hear God's message through his prophets and prepare to welcome the light of Christ. When we allow Jesus to enter our life, I'm summarizing a bit because this is from Advent, so I'm kind of skipping certain parts. When I allow Jesus to enter my life, he is saying, I feel that peace that comes from his integrity, that honor that comes through his devotedness. Then I can see that God has flattened the high mountains for me by showing me the light in the darkness, the great reassurance that he is with me and that I have an eternal destiny with him. That's why we are given these prophets' messages. Okay, and we're going to go to, hold please. One more thing. Now, if y'all want me to actually read from Baruch, I will. But let's check this out real quick. Now, just so you know, I wanted to read that priest's vision of it to kind of offer encouragement. So the book of Baruch is a deuterocanonical book of the Bible included in Catholic and Eastern Orthodox Bibles and also KJV with the Apocrypha, but it's classified as Apocrypha in Protestant and Jewish traditions. It's attributed to Baruch ben Neriah, the faithful scribe and companion of the prophet Jeremiah. The work was likely written in the late Jewish or Maccabean period to provide hope and theological context to Jewish exiles living in Babylon after the destruction of Jerusalem. The text is generally divided into 5 main sections, often concluding with a 6th chapter known as the letter of Jeremiah. So again, people might be wondering, well, why are you reading from, why are you talking about this book today? Again, these things, they seem to repeat, and we can always look back to the prophets to kind of get us back on that straight and narrow and remind us of what we should be grateful for, and to warn us, to keep our behaviors in a certain type of way. So it says, the historical introduction, book 1 through verse 1 through 14 sets the scene in Babylon, describing Baruch reading the scroll to the exiled Judeans, who then weep, repent, and send money to Jerusalem for sacrifices. Prayer of Confession 1:15 through 3:8. A communal prayer acknowledging that the Babylonian exile is a just punishment for Israel's disobedience and sin. Now imagine this. He is warning these people. This is a prophet warning them. And a lot of times prophets are unwelcome, right? You're giving them a warning. You're telling them that God is going to put this city or this town or this village or this people under his wrath. They don't want to hear this, right? And they definitely don't want to hear, well, you can change this by changing your own behavior. People don't want to give up their pleasures of this life. And they don't understand that your pleasures change, the things that bring you joy or the things that find pleasure in. And the world, the system itself, kind of perverts our pleasure detector, if you will. We should be finding pleasure and joy in everyday activities. We should be seeing miracles all around us in nature, but so many people just don't make these connections. So back in the day, what you would do is a whole town or village would almost be converted at once because so many people would want to get baptized. That's when they started doing these group baptisms. And everybody as a group would confess in front of each other, because that holds you to a sense of accountability after that, right? And it also creates community. You know this person's secrets already. They know your secrets already. You have nothing to hide from each other, and there is no preconceived notion or shame involved there, because everybody is doing it all at once, right? Everybody is confessing of their sins to unburden themselves, and then after they do that, they're getting baptized and repenting. So at first, they have a prayer of confession and a prayer of communion all together. Then they praise wisdom from 3:9 through 4:4. It's a poetic section that personifies divine wisdom, equating the search for it with following the laws and commandments of God. The next part is for comfort and encouragement. Section 4:5 through 5:9 is a message of hope for the scattered Jews, urging them to take courage and assuring them that God will eventually rescue them from their oppressors and restore Jerusalem. And then 6, you have the letter of Jeremiah, which is where you get into a warning. Often attached as an appendix, this letter serves as a warning against the folly of idolatry and encourages exiles to remain steadfast in their faith. Now, before I let you go, or if I read that bit, I want to look at something real quick so I can, because I mentioned this a lot and I want to be able to point to it and tell you exactly where it's at. I'm pretty sure it's this book, because I okay. So in the section Baruch 2:22 through 2:3, there is tribulation that is being described. And the text state, the Lord has fulfilled the threats that he made against us, bringing upon us great disasters, such as never happened under the whole heaven, that we would each eat the flesh of our own sons and eat the flesh of our daughters. That is a prophecy, okay? It is a curse of cannibalism. It's a punishment It's not a new thing. It says this punishment was not a new creation, but the ultimate fulfillment of prophetic curses in the Torah, from Leviticus 26 through 29 and Deuteronomy 28:53 through 57. God warned that violating the covenant would lead to devastating sieges, resulting in extreme starvation, where desperate parents would consume their own children. So again, these are things that we should take lessons from today. Look at what's happening at McDonald's. Again, something God told me that I've been warning about since 2017 on both channels. And now you're finally seeing people point to that. Again, it's been such a blessing, and it's been very humbling that God revealed these things through me. And I've never once said that I am a prophet. The Bible says that men and women in the end days will prophesy. I've never said I'm a prophet. I am whatever God says I am at this point. I want to make that clear, because even if somebody decides to keep picking on you or slandering you or saying things that are untrue about you, it's good to go on record to state flatly, like, I've never said that. I don't say that. This is what I say. But again, these other ones, they're only hearing half. They're not hearing consequences. They all seem insatiable with this hunger lately. I don't know if you've noticed it. You either have people starving themselves, looking like, and I don't want to body shame or anything like that, but you have that. Or you have, again, people that normally don't look puffy and swollen, but they look like they're going to burst right out of their skin. Something is happening, and it starts in the spirit first. Again, it's been such a blessing to be part of this process, and have God reveal these things to me so that I could help in all of this and try to warn people. But have courage. Do not be scared, right? Be very careful. Pray over all of your food. Pray over your children. And when we say over, we mean cover them, their spirit, in prayer, meaning blessings. I pray that, his appointment goes well. I pray that his job is going well. I pray that his friends are all healthy and well balanced, and that they're all good influences on each other. Pray for these people, okay? I love you guys. Real soon, we're going to talk about an Exodus, and we're going to talk about foraging and things. But what is this new Exodus going to look like? Well, you're already seeing the nomadic thing kind of take place. People are looking for their people, their spiritual people. I'm told often that, like just yesterday, I was told I have no say in what happens here because I don't pay enough. I didn't know family was supposed to operate that way. And it's not. And just because something is operating a certain way doesn't mean that that's the right way. Just because it's been like that for many years doesn't mean it's the right way. We need to start over fresh, reset our minds, rejuvenate our minds and our spirits, wake our hearts up if you're feeling apathetic. Expose yourself to things that should trigger your emotion. If you feel like you're going dead inside, examine yourself, and most of all, don't go out there and do any harm at this time. We are being judged, and if you don't feel watched, I'm sure you will very soon. I love you guys. Stay blessed. Have a great day. Please pop in every now and again to see the videos that I upload. I uploaded a walk yesterday where I talk a little bit about this nomadic thing going on. And in shorts, I'm always just sharing nature. So if you don't get to get out in nature a lot, I try to, I don't have the best camera, but I try to share God's creation just to make people smile. So check in with those if you feel like it. Y'all have a blessed day. Thank you.